The gorgeous Michelle C., good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. James Smith, what's happening? Lori, thank you so much for the lovely super chat. Really do appreciate that. We are running out of time here, people. Running out of time. And who else is joining us? Sugar Britches, how you doing? Good to see you back. Kawhi Schneider, I think that's it. Scotty FC, nice to have you here. And Gordy, nice to see you. Daryl Zernick, nice to have you back. The gorgeous Tracy Moore has returned. And Phil Minervino, good to have you here, my fellow Canuck. Bob Burkins, go 66. Dirty Filth, how you doing, buddy? Please send me a text and let me know if you don't mind. Project Blue Book, thank you for joining us. Escape from Blue Jersey, Bill H. And, we got 30 seconds. The stunning Samantha Hazelwood Gray has returned. And, let's see, who else is here? We're running out of time. Brown Dot Flop, nice to have you here. And Eric with a K is here, people. We are his number one favorite show, but he might be bullshitting us. We don't know. Ian McFadden, nice to have you here. And we got 10 seconds. Can we squeeze in any more? Gorgeous Larry's the last one. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Man, do we got a great night for you of really high-class woo. Are you ready to talk some Mothman? Lon Strickler returns from phantomsandmonsters.com. Hour 3, we will see the Swamp Dweller return from the swamp. Fedora-wearing John Hudson will bring us the latest UFO news. We got Shirky Poo's news and the thought of the Dave as well. Now, if you don't know Lon Strickler, he is a man who is on a mission to find out what all these monsters really are. He's a Fortean researcher, author, and publisher of the syndicated Phantoms and Monsters blog. He began the blog in 2005, which has steadily grown in popularity, and is read daily by tens of thousands of paranormal enthusiasts, investigators, and those seeking the truth. His research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources, and he's been on numerous television shows to talk everything monstrous with us. Lon Strickler, my friend, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Dave. Thanks for having me on tonight.
It's always a pleasure to have you here, my friend. How was your holidays, Christmas and New Year's, man?
It was nice. Nice and quiet.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Not around
here. Yeah, that is a good thing.
Oh, man. I'll tell you, I'm dead today. I am completely dead today. I'm having to use that intestinal fortitude in order to do the show tonight, man, because literally I spent all weekend shoveling snow. I had 3.5 feet of snow on my patio, man, and I got a large patio. And then I followed it up today by saying, you know what? I'm going to work out.
You're feeling that today then, aren't you?
I'm dying here, Lon. I'm absolutely dying. But that's okay. That's okay. It's not about me. I will trudge through like the tough hockey player I am and go from there. Lon, a lot of people may not know who you are, so how did you get started in this Fortean research of everything monsters and cryptids?
Well, I've always been into the paranormal, I suppose. I had some experiences as a kid, and it seems that a lot of this stuff was attracted to me, but I knew pretty early on that there was something different. But anyway, I was doing paranormal investigations back in the 70s, and back then nobody did that. You said you're a paranormal investigator, you got the hairy eyeball, and people think you're crazy. But anyway, I really did not know much about cryptids. Sure, I heard of Bigfoot, the Boggy Creek legend, the Patty film. Of course, you know about that. You know about the Mothman of Point Pleasant. But anyway, I had an encounter back in 1981 outside of Sykesville, Maryland. I had a Bigfoot encounter. And that kind of started the whole thing. I wanted to know what it was I saw. I wanted to know why so many people, including the government and local officials, were so interested in my sighting. And I started investigating some sightings that had started in the area about a decade before that. The Sykesville Monster, and I started interviewing some of the past witnesses and started getting really deep into it. And, that's the point where I started looking into cryptids and getting to other Fortean subjects. Of course, I was always interested in UFOs. The Betty and Barney Hill thing were kind of getting to be mainstream about the time I was a young boy, and I was interested in that. And of course, in 1988, I had another encounter with something very similar to what people have been seeing in Chicago, and it was a winged being, a red-eyed winged being that myself and two other gentlemen had stumbled upon, and that kind of reinforced everything. And I started taking reports. Though I wasn't doing the blog or really doing much of anything as far as organized investigation, but that came after I started doing the blog, and I've been looking into the phenomena ever since.
It's a subject that is always changing, and new monsters keep popping up left, right, and center that people are having encounters with. At some point, is there not a list of monsters that we could go online and say, okay, we have enough that we have to investigate?
Well, I don't ever think this is going to be a moot subject. There are a lot of so-called monsters that are basically the same thing but had different names, and there's all kinds of different names and monikers for Bigfoot-like creatures. And of course, you've got the lizard man beings and the winged beings and a lot of other stuff in between, the upright canines. So I don't think it's ever going to change. Of course, this crawler humanoid phenomenon, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger, well, at least the past decade or so, but more so the last couple of years, is kind of intriguing. And my next book is going to be about that subject, and we're getting more and more of those, but we really don't know what they are. I have some speculation, but who knows? Are we seeing the advent of another type of humanoid or a human-like creature coming onto our Earth plane? I don't know.
I want to ask you, what is the most important question in the cryptid world we are missing? It's easy to point the finger at the government. It's easy to point the finger at, the people who are researching, for being who they are, because research is all over the map. But what is the most important? And if I were to think of that question myself, Lon, I would think, where are all of these creatures coming from? That to me is, when we hear all these different creatures, from little Ewok-looking dudes to Puckwudgies to gnomes and trolls and goblins and Bigfoot, Mothman, Dogman, Goatman, Frogman, ex-wives and former mother-in-laws, all right? We look at everything that goes along the lines of, where are these things coming from? And that to me would be the most important. Like, there's a portal there open into some hallowed sci-fi world.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we don't have real answers to that. It's mostly speculation, but I guess the major question is, are we open-minded enough to accept it and to investigate it and to, take that leap of faith with it? And, that's what myself and my team and other investigators are doing. I don't know how far we're getting. We haven't really gotten the actual physical evidence that I think we would like to have. But that's going to require most likely an actual body, living or dead. And I just don't think that that's in the cards at this point. When you talk about that, you have to imagine that these beings, for the most part, are probably not indigenous. They probably have the ability as ultra-terrestrial beings to move in and out of dimensions. Now, I don't know what dimensions that is. Are there parallel dimensions to our Earth plane? Possibly. Are they coming from dimensions within the universe at great distances? Very possible. But because of our limitations, our scientific limitations at this point, we really don't know what the answer is. I think those people who are interested in the missing 411 anomalies, where people just suddenly disappear, I think it's not too hard to believe that portals are opening up. Either people are going through them or something's coming out of them and taking. I don't believe it. That's too much of a stretch to believe that. And as time goes on, I think many cryptid investigators are beginning to be more open-minded about that. And, the old interdimensional theories that they used to call the woo, or what they still call the woo, that's kind of becoming less taboo as what it used to be.
Very true, and I've seen that as well as we move on. But these dimensions, Lon, I mean, they sound so far-fetched. They sound right out of Hollywood. They sound like the creations of some pretty, fantastic comic books and just morbid thoughts of what people will have scare them in the night. I mean, that includes aliens as well in regards to that. But these dimensions, that's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me of where these creatures may be coming from, man.
Right. Well, I believe personally that as time goes on and science becomes more sophisticated and, quantum computing and such becomes more mainstream and commercial, I believe that we're going to be able to start getting more answers into dimensional travel. People talk about UFOs and aliens and such, but I believe for the most part, it's portal travel or coming from other dimensions. I'm not necessarily saying alternate realities, but other dimensions, other universes, wormholes and such. I think that's plausible. I think many, if not all, the humanoid type beings that people see are most likely evolved humans from some time in the past. and they have the ability to move back and to come back and to see and to possibly intervene, call some type of intervention to maybe right or wrong or such. I truly believe it, and I've thought that for a while now. And I also believe some beings are intentionally summoned through some type of strong energy to come onto from another dimension to be able to open up a portal. As time has gone on through my research, I think that's becoming more and more apparent, even though it's more theory than anything else. But I do believe that it's a strong possibility that that's what's really going on.
Do you think it's multi-dimensions that are there, or do you think, Lon, that it is something that people are encountering on all from one different dimension that could be side by side with ours?
No, I think they're mostly linear dimensions, but they're multiples. I really do. I think I do really believe that these dimensions are very linear to our Earth plane, and that it's not much of a stretch to believe that they're able to move in and out under whatever mechanism they do it. But I do believe there's multiple dimensions as well.
That just sounds so uniquely awesome, man. So uniquely awesome. That it's hard to fathom. It really is. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite? I know you've been focusing on Mothman the last couple of years, but do you have a favorite cryptid that if there was only one that you could choose from that you could actually dig yourself into and study and everything along those lines?
Yeah, it'd be the winged humanoids. Yeah, Mothman, any other winged humanoid. I've always been interested in it. It's not a phenomena that's one dimensional. It's got a lot of facets to it. I do believe that many of these winged humanoids come from a singular dimension, even though they're different in scope, in race, in species. I think a lot of these cryptids that we see on our Earth plane come from that same dimension. I don't know why I think that. I've just got some indications, and I am kind of an intuitive, and I sense a lot of different things when I do my work. But it does seem to be very similar in scope as to what the original location is and the way they do things. And I think if it's not just one, it's very few, but it probably is one or two.
Okay, well, everybody wants to hear about the latest Mothman type of winged humanoid species that you have been covering for the last number of years. Explain to me, and our audience, if you don't mind, take us down the history road, because we're really going to turn up the jets here in the second half hour about this. But when did these sightings start occurring when you started following them?
Well, the first sightings came into MUFON. I mean, the first documented sightings came in 2011. It was July, August, and September 2011. There were 3 different sightings in South Chicago. There was a photograph associated with it, though I do not believe. Right now, I don't believe that was an authentic photograph. I think it may have been something else. But the descriptions of these beings were pretty similar. That they were type of dark colored beings. I think one of them at least had red eyes, and the wings themselves were somewhat membraned. But that's kind of as specific as it got until we got into 2017. Where the first real reported sighting was a sighting in Oz Park in Chicago, North Chicago, where a professional woman had been walking her dog in the evening. And she came across this being that was standing in the park. and the dog reacted to it. In fact, it was a Jack Russell Terrier, kind of cowered behind her. It got scared. And that's when she noticed it. And this thing had some height to it, maybe 6 to 7 foot in height. And it was just standing there. And as she stood there watching it, it slowly turned to look at her and had bright red eyes. And the wings themselves were huge wings. They kind of reminded what she's like an angel wing, a wing that extended over the top of the head, but it was big. And when it actually it never really unfurled the wings, but it was able to project itself into the air, just like it was shot out of a rocket was the description. And as it did, it reached an apex and started screaming, and then flew away. That was the first real indication that these beings were starting to be seen again. And of course, the first few sightings came through MUFON. This one from Oz Park, Manuel Navarrete, who's the investigator who's been working with me for years now. He was able to track her down and talk to her. And as we started getting more reports off the MUFON CMS, we decided that we were going to start soliciting reports, and which is what we did. And then that's when we started getting bombarded by it. And it was interesting, the reports, because people were not embellishing on what they saw. They would call me or call Manuel, and they would tell us what they saw, not believing what they saw, but they Googled human with wings or something like that on Google, and our numbers would come up, and they'd tell us we saw this and that, this dark emaciated like being with bat-like wings or owl-like wings, and some had red eyes, some didn't. And for the most part, the wings were extended but were not flapped. They were being able to propel themselves without flapping the wings. And that they did move at a pretty decent rate of speed, and they were gliding, but very quickly. And then it was a fleeting sighting. They would just disappear. And, but when we tried to get them to espouse on their sighting, they did not deviate from it. They never embellished on it. And that's shocking. That's kind of when you're doing cryptid research and taking cryptid sighting reports, you can kind of prod a witness and to get them to start adding on to the story. But that didn't happen. These people were almost like they were imprinted. And they did not deviate from what they actually initially reported. And this continued on and on. 2017, up until October of that year, we had over 50 sightings reported to us. And as of October 2019, the majority of the reports have started to come from O'Hara International. I'd say now that 80 to 85% of the reports come from O'Hara since that time. And overall, at this point, we're at about 140 sightings. And those are sightings that we do believe are actual. Of course, there's some there that we've had questions about, and we keep a record of it, but we don't put it on the map or, do much research into those.
45 seconds. What's the attraction of O'Hare Airport in Chicago?
I think there's a portal there. And when I say at least we believe one of the areas is a location at Rest Haven Cemetery. There is a cemetery at O'Hara, and it's a ley line area. There's 3 ley lines that intersect at that area, and there seems to be a relation between a lot of the sightings and that cemetery.
Wonderful. Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to continue with some Mothman talk, but we're also going to get into a new book that Lon has out, Alien Disclosure, Experiencers Expose Reality. There is some majorly cool stories in this, and damn it, Lon, I wish you would have hit me up for a couple of them. I could have shared a couple of mine with you, but but that's okay. We're going to get into that. Men in Black. I love that topic. We're going to do it tonight. Lon Strickler, phantomsandmonsters.com. Find all his books online like Amazon. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio when we return for the second half hour. And we're clear.
Okay.
That's solid.
I'm gonna get some,
solid, my friend. You go get something to drink. Your beard's looking fantastic, though. Isn't Lon's beard looking fantastic, people? Look at his beard. Fantastic. Adam Cram, what's happening? John Doe, how are you? All right, want to remind all of you, I'm going to put it in the email here, or in the chat, that if you are looking at going to our Spaced Out Radio Vegas party on April 22nd to 24th, this is what I need you to do. I need you to email us at info@spacedoutradio.com. We've already got 10 people confirmed. 10 people confirmed for the Vegas get-together, April 22nd to 24th. We got a great rundown. We are trying to find a place where we can do a live show on the Saturday night as well. Otherwise, it is just a get-together for all of us to come together, have fun, talk some woo, and do whatever we want. Why? Because it's Las Vegas. That's why we're doing it. I need a holiday from this COVID crap. I know you guys do too. Why not spend it together at a weekend in Vegas, April 22nd to 24th? And once again, if you are 100% going, not 99% going, 100% going, go to that email, info@spacedoutradio.com. Give your name and your size, because we are going to be doing a gift bag for each of the first 50 people who sign up. I'm not going to say what's in there, but it's going to be a good time. So we appreciate that. How you doing, Lon?
Okay.
Your beard's looking fantastic.
I had to really cut it down and let it grow back again.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Dale and his Power Stash have entered the chat room. Remember, if you are in Austin, Texas, and you see Uncle Dale, rub his Power Stash for good luck right through tax time. Gong Show, nice to have you back. AI number 42, nice to have you here. Gordium, nice to see you. Nose on Scent, thanks for coming on in. Remember, Lynn Wallington should be returning this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. It will be her call on whether or not she can make it. Okay, due to her health right now, as many of you know, she has contracted COVID, and so she took last weekend off. We're going to see how she does this coming weekend. She's hoping to be back on the air Saturday and Sunday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, that's followed up by the after-hours show. And, make sure you check that on out. We'll keep you up to date with what's going on this weekend. Martin K., Ruger Luger, welcome. And who else has joined us here? Ange Vuka on Twitch. I see you moved over there, Ange. You are stealthy. You are very, very stealthy. All right? Jenny, you can book Vegas wherever you want. Wherever you want. I haven't decided where I'm staying yet either. So we do have a battle plan for Vegas and an itinerary that will be going up on our website very soon. And but anywhere you want to stay in Vegas, that is up to you. We're making it very simple and plain this year for our first time, and see how it goes from there. Sapphire, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate your support of SOR and Russian Mothman, Chernobyl. I will ask Lon about that. Derek Cook, Ric Flair, woo! Absolutely. Stylin', profilin'. Remember, Derek Cook is the king of the jungle, people. He is. alligator shoes, gold Rolex, midnight riding, high flying, limousine riding, king of the jungle, man. That's who he is right there. All right. Let's see here. We got about a minute here. Thank you to our super chatters so far. Nicola, Lori, and Sapphire. We really do appreciate it. Adam Cram, welcome. We got about 20 seconds here before we're going to launch on back. We want to see you all in Vegas. Hi, gorgeous D. Swiger. Nice to have you here. Don't forget, UFO Garage. UFO Garage, if you haven't signed up for their channel, Sonny's Paranormal Chop Shop, Chad Smith Show, or Thomas Fessler's Disclosure Tonight, you're going to want to on YouTube. Here we go, everyone. Second half hour of Space Sound Radio is now underway. Hello to the world out there. My name is Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. All right, we continue on tonight. Lon Strickler, phantomsandmonsters.com. Every couple of months, we bring in the legendary Fortean researcher to come talk everything weird and strange with us. We're talking Mothman right now, and this is where we absolutely love it. And at the top, near the top of the hour, we'll get into some aliens and men in black. Lon, welcome back.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Quick question from Sapphire here. Have you heard of any of the Russian Mothman stories around Chernobyl? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, before the Chernobyl disaster, there were reports of a winged being that they were calling the Blackbird of Chernobyl. It was seen a couple times above the reactor. I don't know if it was really determined or thought to be a harbinger at the time, but it was documented. And in fact, unlike the Point Pleasant Mothman, which was kind of used as an excuse as opposed to a harbinger of the Silver Bridge collapse, the Blackbird of Chernobyl really was a documented sighting that happened before a disaster.
Were there sightings after?
Not that I know of.
That always interests me when all of a sudden these harbingers seem to disappear, much like what happened in Point Pleasant.
Well, Point Pleasant, it never really ended at Point Pleasant. I mean, there's still sightings in Point Pleasant in Mason County and the environs. There had been winged humanoid sightings, Mothman sightings ever since and before that. And even across the river into Ohio, there have been sightings. I will occasionally get a sighting from the Point Pleasant area. And, it continues on.
My goodness. Now, the creatures that people are seeing, these Mothmen, when I think of it, I think of almost like a humanoid type body with a monster, almost like an owl head with big wings and arms and everything. Is that accurate, or are people seeing the same thing, or are we seeing a multitude of different creatures?
Oh, I think they're different. I mean, I think in their own way, they're each different. Overall, I mean, from the time the sighting started in 2017 up to the present time, for the most part, they're a very dark body, mostly black, very small heads, maybe thin heads, but many of them have red eyes, very bright red eyes. They have legs, arms that are either detached from the wing or attached to the wing. And the wings themselves are membrane wings. Now, early on, there were others, and of course, we still occasionally get the owl wing type beings. So there are some differences. But for the most part, they are a bat wing, gargoyle wing like being. And we get all kinds of descriptions, anywhere from gargoyles to owlman, even references to the Jeepers Creepers being from the films. People associate the body style and wings to that as well. So yeah, and I think when we first started looking into this in 2017, it was my assumption that there were at least 3 different beings seen at the time throughout Chicago and the suburbs and areas around Chicago, even up. But the sightings have ranged anywhere from southern Wisconsin down through most of Illinois into Indiana, northern to central Indiana. So, we've been taking sightings within a 200 to 250 mile radius of Chicago. But yeah, I mean, and I think for the most part, these are the same beings, same type of beings that are being seen. And we've had a few out over the lake, and occasionally we've had some in Michigan across the lake.
That vicinity of Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Michigan. I know you mentioned ley lines right before the break, but is there anything else that makes that area so important for this creature? Is it the Great Lakes? Is it the military bases that are around those areas? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's geography for the most part. There are very strong ley lines that extend from Chicago west and southwest for hundreds of miles, actually. But the winged humanoid phenomena is something, even like thunderbirds and pterodactyls or pterosaurs. This is something that's very well known in the upper Midwest, but also through what we call the Rust Belt. I mean, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, even Kentucky. That area up from the east across in the Rust Belt over to the upper Midwest have always had a strong association with unknown cryptids and such. And, why that is, I don't know. I believe it has to do with geography, possibly ley lines. But, it just seems to be very conducive for activity. Either there are portals that can open up at certain locations like O'Hara, and of course we get a lot of Bigfoot activity in that area, in the Rust Belt as well. So, it's kind of hard to define it. I think most cryptids and most paranormal activity have a thread of connection. We had, a lot of times we will get a sighting and then something else will turn up associated with it. And, it's hard to answer definitively what it is, but there seemed to be a very strong association with that whole area.
Wow. How often are the sightings happening?
Well, I'd say we get a reported sighting at O'Hara every couple of weeks or so, maybe up to a month. It's gotten to the point now where people are afraid to report it because the powers that be at the airport, and I'm talking about TSA, airport security, even the carriers are very cognizant of the sightings. They know what's going on. And they've been really cracking down on employees taking photographs, taking videos, and threatening their jobs. We had an incident back in December 30th where 3 American airline cargo employees saw 3 of these winged beings on the ground near where they were working at the terminal, at the cargo terminal for American Airlines. And they were taking video of it. And as they were doing so, the TSA and carrier security confiscated and made them their phones and made them send it to them, plus had them erase it in front of them, and then threaten their jobs. Now, one of these employees was fed up with the way he was treated and contacted us. His union has been contacted about it. And I'm in the process of communicating with them now. But there's a real crackdown at O'Hara now with this, and why they're doing it. Well, I think they're fearful, with COVID and everything, and that it's been sporadic as far as air travel and such. I think they're trying to limit any fear of flying from any of the public, and I think that's why they're cracking down on it. But they're very aware of what's going on.
Okay, so if they are aware, what's the danger of letting it out about these creatures?
Well, that's just it.
Is it the same thing as aliens and UFOs here? Is that what we're talking about?
I think they believe it's on the same vein as that. You remember the incident of the UFO that kind of punched through the skies above O'Hara back in, was it 2008 or whenever? And that really caused a big stir. But there have been a lot of UFO sightings at O'Hara since then that have not made the public, the news and known to the public. We had one recently of a V-wing type a craft in the southern section of the airport from a security guard. We have had other sightings of UFO, oval type UFOs, especially above that cemetery that I told you about earlier. And in fact, a humanoid type being was seen ascending into that craft one early morning by a dock worker. And there have been other gray alien-like beings walking around the area as well, seen by people. O'Hara has a strange reputation for hauntings and alien beings. We've kind of heard a lot coming out of that. But I tell you, a lot of airports do. A lot of airports have some strange history for whatever reason. And O'Hara is definitely one of the top, one of the top locations for this.
That UFO sighting in 2008, when it punched a big round hole right through the cloud, that one still trips me out. And it amazes me that story is not talked a lot more about, considering the danger. I mean, if we want to talk security threat, that was a security threat right there. Mm-hmm. And the danger with Chicago being, one of the top 2 most busiest airports in North America as the gateway to everywhere else. I mean, that's just crazy, Lon.
And they're expanding the airport. They really are. I mean, there's been a lot of work being done out there. There were other incidents. There was, of course, the incident where a professional, I think it was a basketball team, had flown on a charter into O'Hara, and something hit the nose cone of the nose of a carrier and put a pretty good sized dent in it. That was never been explained. Though the passengers felt it, but many of them just never said much about it. But like I said before, there's been a lot of strange things that have happened out there that just the cover has just been put on top of it. Their security is pretty tight out there. Always has been. It's tougher now.
That reminds me of that flight, that NBA team flight. That was just like four years ago or something like that, where the entire nose was punched into the craft. And usually it's a bird that gets caught up in a jet stream, whether it's an eagle, a seagull, or a condor, or hawk, or something of the bigger bird variety, a vulture. But there was not, the one thing that it said right off the bat was, even though they claimed it was a bird, there was no markings of feathers or anything within that craft. And usually when a bird hits, it cracks the shell of the plane. And this one was just like, it literally looked like a big giant orb had smashed into the nose cone and then bounced off.
Yeah, it was pushed in. There was no cracking. It was pushed in. Some of the paint was taken off of it, but no, it was pushed in. It was a pretty good size, too. And it happened as they were descending into the airport. So I don't know how many feet they were. But yeah, it was something considerable size. I doubt it was a bird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to believe it was a bird, Lon. I don't want it to believe. You got your latest book out, as we kind of start to make a shift here, is getting into the alien world. And people know you more for your monster talk and your paranormal talk. What made you decide that this one here you wanted to get into a little bit of aliens?
Well, I've been involved with a lot of alien experiencers in the past for years, 20, 25 years or more. There have been a lot of individuals who have come forth, and because they couldn't get any satisfaction from some of the bigger groups like MUFON and Newfork, they sought me out. And of course, I'd lend an ear to them and listen to them and talk to them. And yeah, that's what the book consists of mostly, their actual reality, what they experienced, as opposed to what was reported to MUFON. And there's some pretty harrowing stories in there. Abduction, experimentation. One case where the actual person, after I met them, literally disappeared off the face of the earth. Nobody knows where she ended up. I almost quit. I almost quit investigating it that day. That it shook me so bad, I almost quit that day. But yeah, it's there's a lot of interesting accounts in there.
Okay, so as we look forward, when you were looking into aliens, what are people telling you about their experiences that you documented in this book?
Well, I guess the most important witness was David Eckhart and his ordeal that he's been experiencing for the past, he's been almost 15 years with him. But David was kind of chosen, if you want to use that term. They didn't come into his place and abduct him through UFOs or craft or such. It was all portal. A portal would open up in his bedroom. And at first he thought that he had a haunting issue, or there were animals or something causing issues. But he later discovered when these beings showed up that they were interested in him. And at the time, David had a very, very bad arthritic condition, rheumatoid arthritis. And over a period of 4 nights, they performed procedures on him, and he's completely healed. I've seen the x-rays. I've seen everything. He's proved it to me. And they would literally take him and his family off this dimension. They would take him through a portal. Now, I believe it was, for the most part, not dimensional. I believe there was an underground that this portal opened up into on this planet. He described the location as a huge underground cavern where he was given basically like a tour. He had a reptilian being who was in charge of watching over him and to explaining things to him, though this being did not like him. This being expressed to him he did not like humans. and he was doing this because he was instructed to do it. But David noticed and looked, and in this area there were a lot of homes or pods built along this cavernous area for these reptilian families or reptilian beings to live in. And throughout the cavern, there was a lot of slave labor, if you want to say it that way, of other beings, other aliens, even human beings being used as slave labor. David was taken to an area, and of course, David had been shown throughout the many times he had been abducted of experimentation areas where humans were abducted and literally killed. They were pulling spines and such out of these living, breathing humans and disposing of them in a type of incinerator where they would literally just walk into. He described this very, very explicitly to me. And, that's basically what he has seen. He had seen a type of transport where these beings would be reduced in size, placed into an orb-like structure, and transported either to another dimension or to another planet or possibly universe. His story is very, very interesting. It's just so much to it. There's a lot that I have not disclosed over time that I may at one point, but it's just so much. David was used as a sexual conduit. He would literally be in bed with his wife, and these female beings would come through a portal and just jump on him, especially when he and his wife were having sex, and would finish the job on him. He had been shown at one point when they were upset with him that he had been shown a young female hybrid that he knew instinctively was his child. When they were trying to force him to cooperate with them, they would not allow him to touch her or communicate with her, but he knew that they meant business. And they kind of held that over him for time. They have had children, human children that they have abducted. They have shown these beings to him. They have transported these beings to his home to show him. It's been a lot. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds improbable, but it's still occurring now. Though the dynamic has changed. There are different groups he has been with that have been working with him, and it's an unbelievable story. But it is in the book, and it's a very intense situation. But I believe him, absolutely. It took a while, but I believe him.
Most of the time when we hear about harvesting, it's usually with women and their eggs. I mean, to hear a story of a man getting harvested for sperm or transpermia or whatever, I mean, why do we find it so much harder to believe?
I don't know. I have worked with several young females, who have had eggs and fetuses harvested from them. There was one girl, and I call her a girl because at the time she was about 25, and she had lost 5 pregnancies, all after the first trimester, where they came and ethereally abducted her, and when she woke up, the fetus was gone. And she had no explanation for it.
Right. Lon, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. We have Lon Strickler for one more hour here on Spaced Out Radio. He's got a brand new book out, Alien Disclosure, Experiencers Expose Reality. Is ET Contact a good thing for us to be wanting? Well, if you haven't had it yet, probably not a good idea. If you're like some of us who've got some aliens, well, you just hope for the best and hope that it's not the worst. That's all we can really say about that. Lon Strickler's website, phantomsandmonsters.com. When we return, more alien talk. We'll also get into the Men in Black as well. Of course, your questions, if you're in one of our chat rooms. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this with hour number 2. Lon, I gotta hit the loo here. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you gonna chat with the audience, or do you want me to put you on mute?
No, I can talk to him.
All right. You go right ahead. I'll be right back.
So, folks, you have some questions? Just put it in the chat. I can talk. Yeah, Black Rabbit. We've been concentrating mostly on Pennsylvania, Butch and I. We have had a few sightings up near Pottstown, Pennsylvania. There's a stretch of road between King of Prussia and Pottstown where there have been several sightings. Actually, two of the sightings were in the median between the highway. So we've been looking into that. Yeah, I've heard about the U.S. government and the secrets between the Greys and Nordics and stuff since the 50s. Of course, there's talk about the Gaeta Treaty and such, and I don't know how much of that to believe. I did a write up about about Dulce recently, and some of the secrets, supposed secrets that an experiencer had there. But Dulce, I usually put any updates or something I have that comes up. It's kind of been the same recently. I mean, in the past couple of years, there's nothing really different about that. Yeah, the encounter I had in Pennsylvania with the winged humanoid Mothman, if you want to call it that, I think the thing was aware of us being there. I thought I had a sense of something being around that whole time I was there. So I think a lot of what I experienced that day in '88 kind of correlates with what's been going on in Chicago. I think myself and my team have been chosen to look into that phenomena. I really do. I think that's something that has become apparent to the team itself. That's why we continue to look at it. We're very interested in it, and I have a personal reason behind it, and I think it has something to do with my encounter in '88.
I want to quickly show something here.
Okay.
For those who didn't get a chance to see it before we run out of time. Just thought I would show you guys. Let's see here. This today was the sunset or the sunrise I woke up to. If you guys want to take a little peek at this is pretty awesome. The clouds look like cotton candy.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic today. Fantastic. We got about 90 seconds here.
Okay.
So we'll save the. Which question did you get to last?
Yeah, I was just talking about my thoughts about my encounter I had in '88 with the wing being.
Okay. Just want to remind people that if you are planning on attending our Vegas party in April 22nd to 24th, our fan get-together with me, Lynn Wallington, and others, make sure you go to info@spacedoutradio.com. This is for if you are 100% committed to going, and let us know because we want to bring a grab bag for the first 50 people who have signed up. We've got about 10 so far signed up, so that's already a bigger party than I thought it was going to be, so I'm pretty happy with that. But we want to see you all there if you can make it with us and hang out in Vegas and have a lot of fun with us. So if you want to check it on out, do that. And, of course, big thank you to our Super Chatters tonight, Dry Toast, Sapphire, Lori, and Nicola. The Super Chat is a fantastic way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi, Sovereign Farts. Hi, Pine Island Research. How are you? And Trinitro, good to see you. Black Rabbit, nice to have you back. And thank you so much for joining us. And, of course, want to remind you that we are also big supporters of KPNL Radio. We are also big supporters of UFO Garage, Sunny and Paranormal Chop Shop, Chad Smith Podcast, and, of course, Thomas Fessler and Disclosure Tonight. So make sure that you have signed up for all of them. Hi, Matthew Anderson. Here we go, everyone, with hour number 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott, broadcasting from SOR headquarters in beautiful British Columbia. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tasenda. Tasenda is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow, and now on TikTok @Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Lon Strickler, phantomsandmonsters.com. He's got a brand new book. I believe this is your 11th or 12th book you have out now, Lon.
Well,
that's on Amazon.
I have 8 books out. That book was that was originally published about 2 years ago and is republished this year.
Okay, so very cool, very cool. And we're talking aliens, UFOs, and experiencers. You know, the one argument that I have had recently, Lon, through all of this entire UFO flap that's been going on the last years, we've really seen the experiencer pushed to the side, castigated, away from the phenomena that's happening, almost like your opinion doesn't matter right now. Where do you stand on that?
No, that's a big reason why I wrote the book. I believe some of the reporting agencies have kind of forgotten about the actual witness themselves or the experiencer. They do not concentrate, for the most part, on personal experiences, abductions, encounters, and such. It's more about the nuts and bolts with the flying craft or whatever it is the person sees. And I believe that I just got tired of it, actually, and I figured that was a good time to write the book and put it out there what people have actually been telling me.
So, for you, when you hear an experience of extraterrestrial contact, what's the guise you're looking for? What are you looking for information?
I'm just willing to listen to what they have to tell me, and put it in context. I had an encounter years ago, back in the end of 2015, where I was taken. And I don't know if I went into a craft or I went to another location. This was an experience that I had with the same beings that I've had encounters with in my home. They were 3 tall, gray-like beings, possibly 7 foot in height. But all my encounters have been with these same 3 beings. And at this location, at this time, they showed me their historical rendition of things that have happened on Earth with certain civilizations, and a possible influence of a otherworldly race and huge craft that landed in the Nile Delta, approximately what I can estimate about 12,500 years ago. And that this encounter was conducive to some of the early civilizations in the Fertile Crescent, Greece, the Egyptians and such. So that is what I was shown. And, I did write about it to a small degree in the beginning of the book, but I didn't go into great detail. But, I kind of, when I listen to people talk to me about their encounters, I kind of compare it to what I've experienced over the years and some of the encounters I've had. And, it's, there are a few things I listen for, how sincere they are to me and how specific they are with me. And I can usually tell pretty quickly if they're telling me something they actually experienced.
Mm-hmm. With the ET abductions that are going on, is there a common thread that you have heard from experiencers of what is actually happening and why this is happening to them?
That's a big question. I don't think anybody really has any idea why this happens. Most people have multiple experiences, not just one. Many times they don't remember what had happened until even many years later. There are certain physical characteristics that are pretty common. Scoop marks seem to be one of the major ones where a small piece of tissue is removed, either from the belly or the thigh of an experiencer. Sometimes they feel pain in their groin or sexual parts and such, where they believe there's been some type of experimentation. Many times they're returned with their clothes on backwards or on the wrong side of the bed when they wake up or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of little things. But many times they don't realize anything's happened until they get up, go into the bathroom, and then notice something's different. And that's usually the common thread. They notice something different, or as time goes on, they notice their personality has changed to a degree. They have more fear of something that they didn't before. And that, they have some type of issues with lights. And this is one thing that has come up in more recent years with abductions. They're not necessarily abductions, but there are encounters. But a lot of times the actual scenario is performed at the location, the bedroom, or wherever it happens. And it's usually preceded by blue lights. I hear about these blue lights constantly. either blue orbs or blue lights coming through a window. There always seems to be some type of blue orb association with these encounters. And many of the abductions themselves don't seem to be physical abductions, but ethereal abductions. In other words, the body stays where it's at, and the ethereal being is taken.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the big mysteries that we have with the ET contact phenomena is, they could get you physically or they could get you ethereally. This is one of the great debates on how they do that. Is there different groups doing different types of abductions?
It seems to be different groups. I know the groups that David has been involved with are different than what I have been involved with. There seem to be different factions. And in recent years, maybe recent decades, it's not just like one being or one type of being involved with the abduction. You talk about the Betty and Barney Hill abduction. These are one type of being that were associated with that. In recent years, it seems to be a conglomerate of different types of beings, including humans, that are part of the abduction scenario. 4, 5, or 6 different types of beings. There always seem to be workers, seems to be the ones that do the grunt work, and then there are humans involved sometimes. Many times there's a reptilian that's kind of running the show, but there seems to be a hierarchy, a higher overlord that reminds people of the mantis type being, the insectoid, which I believe are actual metamorphosized reptilians. Just from some of the information that I've received over the years, I believe that these insectoid type beings are metamorphosized reptilian beings. So I believe that they go higher up in the hierarchy by metamorphosizing into these beings.
Wow. Do you think the Men in Black are still active?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they may have changed in some form. I don't necessarily wear the fedora and the black suits and such, and the black sunglasses. Many times they're in some type of black one-piece jumpsuit or something, and a lot of different varieties. But I do not believe the Men in Black are associated with the governments. I don't believe it has anything to do with any human involvement at all. I believe they are like a sentry or a type of a specific faction of the alien beings themselves, trying to minimize sightings and encounters that people have. Because, I have heard so many scenarios where someone would have an encounter with a UFO, say at their home, or have an encounter with a being at their home. And before they even report it, these Men in Black show up. And they're pushy. I mean, they leave no doubt that these people should not be reporting this. And many times people do not report it. There are a lot of things that happen that people refuse to go to the government or even to MUFON or other reporting agencies. That's how we get some of these reports, because they believe that, and I know in our case, that we will keep it confidential, keep their information confidential, and not be used against them in any way.
What is your thoughts, before I get some audience questions, on the potential or the possibility that Luis Elizondo was a Man in Black who came forward?
I'll be honest with you. My personal opinion, I believe it's all crap. I think that whole Pentagon thing is a spoon-fed, situation. I don't believe he was part of any black ops or any type of black program. I'm talking about him, Corey Good, and a lot of these other yahoos in the ufology community. I don't buy into it. I really don't. And if they want to come to me and say, well, they want to argue me, that's fine. They can tell me and talk to me at any time, but I don't buy into any of that. The Tic Tac thing and the disclosure by the government, I don't buy into Elizondo's, his story at all. I think this was all part of the military to come forth with a few scrubbed cases, sanitized cases to kind of pacify some government types who were looking into the UFO phenomena. And I think they were spoon feeding, and I think that's where it's going to continue. They kind of put it out there when they started all this that we were going to get more information and we would know more about UFOs, but quite frankly, we didn't get anything. And as far as any disclosure by the government and military about alien beings, well, that's not going to happen unless it absolutely has to happen. I mean, if they land on the White House lawn, then I guess they're going to have to say something.
That would be different.
Need to know.
Yeah. So with the Men in Black, what would bring them out now? What brings them out now?
The same reason what I said before. I mean, I think they're, say there's a sighting that maybe these beings, these factions didn't want to be seen or reported. That's why they send these Men in Black or these agents of theirs, or to come in and kind of tamp down, the witness from going into making a report or such. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't think it has anything to do with the government at all.
No way. No. So, do you think the Men in Black, as some people say, are of alien descent?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I wrote about them in the book because I thought they were alien. I think they are alien. I think they're otherworldly beings. I don't think they're human. I don't think they work with the government or the military. I think they're an independent part of alien factions, and there may be several types of factions.
And what would be the purpose of alien Men in Black?
To keep things quiet.
Quiet how?
That the encounter or the experience the experiencer has is not put out to the public.
That would detect a deal with the governments then.
No. That when you talk to these people who have these encounters with these Men in Black, they are literally scared to death. They are threatened. It's not a very pleasant situation. And those folks who do report to us usually wait a long period of time before they do come forward and talk about it. I do not believe that many of these people make their reports public, like with MUFON or Newfork or whoever. I think they stay away from it.
Do you think then that these alien Men in Black are part of any type of MyLab program?
I doubt it. No, I doubt it. These MyLab programs are, I do believe that the government, to a small degree, and some alien factions may be working together, but I don't think it's like the conspiracy theories where they're really, like Dulcie. Dulcie, it's a good story, but I don't necessarily buy into a lot of what people have said over the years. I think it's a smaller degree of that. I think there is some minor cooperation, but I just do not believe that the government and these alien factions are working hand in hand. I think there's some allowances as far as abductions, but just like with the mutilations, I think a lot of that is just government. And I think for whatever reason they're doing experimentation, chemical experimentation, or they're trying to get samples with experimentation of some certain type of chemicals or whatever. I don't think that much of it, if any of it, has to do with alien beings.
Okay, let's get to some questions here. Sovereign is wondering, he says, I heard that the MIB come from Shambhala and Underground City. Lon, have you heard this?
Nope, never heard of that at all. I never even heard that.
Well, let's see if we got any more regarding the Men in Black. How often are these encounters happening with MIB?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we can only report on what we get. It's just like what we get in Chicago. We're quite sure there are many reports, but people are just fear, ridicule, or just don't want to believe what their eyes have shown them. I mean, I'm quite sure there are a lot of things that are happening out there we never hear about.
These humanoid beings, do you think they're robots? Do you think they're actual alien beings?
Now, you're talking about the humanoids, you're talking about the
I'm talking about the Men in Black.
Oh, the Men in Black. No, I think they're actually flesh and blood beings. I think they're alien beings. I think they're part of the faction that they're representing.
All right. Third Phase of Moon is asking, Lon, what is your opinion of Richard Doty recently stating that he was once a Men in Black, as stated in the documentary, who saw the Men in Black?
Yeah, I saw that. I don't buy into it. I know there's a few things that happened out at Sandia, but a lot of what Richard Doty put out there, I don't believe.
Why is that?
I just don't believe it. I think there are a lot of holes in his story. I think it's a convenient story. I think he's been used by the government to put a lot of this stuff out to kind of put people in the wrong direction. If there are things going on at Sandia and out in that area, out in Albuquerque, yeah, I think there's some stuff going on there, but it's not to the degree that he has reported over the years.
Your overall feeling on him? You think he is a disinformation agent?
Absolutely.
Even to this day?
Yes.
All right. Trinitro is wondering, how come Men in Black can speak high-quality English if they are aliens?
A lot of these aliens can speak a lot of different languages. David Eckhart will tell you that. They do communicate. The beings that David has been associated with talk by voice and by some type of telepathy. The beings that I had an encounter with communicated with me telepathically, and they never talked or anything, but it was always in English, and I understood what they were saying.
Okay, so is that mind speak or through actual lips?
No, you can say it's mind speak if that's what you want to call it. It's kind of like telepathy. It's almost like you got a voice in your head, but you do understand it, and it's very easy to understand. I understood everything they told me. It's almost like they got the dialect down too.
Okay, so with the idea that these are aliens, let's go to Kira's question here, where she asks, have you ever heard of a Men in Black that is like a smoke being or transparent?
Not Men in Black. I've heard a lot of different beings that do come across like that, to manifest out of smoke or vanish into smoke. Are they a jinn type being? Maybe. As far as Men in Black, I have never heard that before.
All right, we got less than a minute here. Let's see if we can get one more question in. Sovereign is asking, do some people interpret that telepathy as a voice-to-skull technology?
I really don't know. I'll be honest with you. I just do not know.
It is sticky. Lon, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to take more questions from our audience when we come back. We have Lon Strickler from phantomsandmonsters.com hanging on out with us tonight, talking aliens, Men in Black. We'll see where the conversation goes when we return. You can find all of his books at Amazon. Yep, there's a bunch of them. You got a library right there waiting for you. And they're all pretty well, fairly priced as well. So go check them on out if you want to add to your library. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this as we make the turn through the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Lon Strickler, phantomsandmonsters.com. Check him on out. He's one of the best. We'll be back with more SOR right after this. All right, we're clear.
Yeah, I guess you can tell I'm not a fan of ufologies.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the nutball crap that comes out of the conspiracy theories, it's just ridiculous.
I know. One second here. Sorry, I just had to send a note there to my my daytime boss. When the guy who signs my paychecks starts messaging me, you gotta respond.
Yeah, I used to have to do that myself. I remember.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't mind him. He's pretty awesome. He treats me very well.
No, you're lucky to have a good boss.
Richard Skinner, how are you? Welcome to the show. Yeah, you know what? He is. He's one of my big fans of what I do. He, with this show and everything, he has no problem that I show up to work late every morning by 5 to 10 minutes. And, you know, he's a good man. Probably the best boss I've ever had. Actually,
good.
He is the best boss I've ever had. And a good friend, too, so.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
I've had some real winners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really have.
True radio story, Lon. Back in 2007, going into the NHL draft, there was a record 5 British Columbia kids that were going to be drafted into the first round of the NHL draft.
Mm-hmm.
So my sports director says, I want all 5. I said, not a problem. I got 4 of the 5. We were the only radio station and media outlet to interview 4 out of the 5.
Mm.
And this prick that I worked for, the only thing he could do was yell at me that I didn't get the 5th guy.
Well, that figures.
Yeah. Yeah. And he chewed my ass off. I told you to get all 5. Why couldn't you get the guy? I said he was on the golf course with his buddies before leaving for the draft. I said there was nothing I could do. I had the guy's cell phone, and, I mean, don't forget, this is before text messaging came out popular.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I couldn't get a hold of him. He wouldn't. He answered his phone once and says, call me back when I'm done my round of golf. So I called him back. He never picked up after that. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Right? I'm getting praised by all of these other major newspaper reporters who were using my quotes from players that they couldn't get and calling me for phone numbers from these guys for the other four, and my boss is chewing my ass off for not getting the fifth guy. That's the kind of guy I worked for. That's why one of the reasons why I quit radio.
I had an interesting hockey story. And I like hockey. I mean, when I was living outside of Baltimore, I lived in an apartment building, and the apartment beside me was rented by the Baltimore Skipjacks, which were were the AHL affiliate of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
This kid moved in there. His name is Mario Lemieux. He moved in there for 2 days and had to pack up 2 days later. They were shipping him out to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, quite the career.
I didn't even get a chance to really talk to the kid. But
he did okay.
I'm telling you.
He did okay.
One of them. Huh?
He did okay.
He did good. He did fine.
We got to get going here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight from phantomsandmonsters.com. We have Lon Strickler. He's been doing this a long time, tracking down all the weird, strange stories that are around North America and the world. And Lon, we're always lucky to have you on this show. We're going to continue with some audience questions here, starting off with Black Rabbit, who is asking, is it a unique voice, or does it present in your own voice like you were thinking for yourself? Now, this goes into the talk of Men in Black not being from here.
I don't know. A lot of times the people have told me it's kind of, the voice is kind of robotic-like in some cases, but other times it's it's a pretty steady dialect. But many times they have told me that it's almost like a robotic type voice.
All right. Felipe is asking, could the Men in Black be part of a social experiment and not alien related?
Oh, I guess it could be, but my theory is they're definitely alien related. I don't think there's anything to do with human involvement at all with it.
Big J wants to know, what is your opinion, Lon, on George Valdez's book, The Dulce Base?
I talked to George Valdez at one point, and I think he was very sincere about what he wrote, and some of the accounts that he received from that people that lived around the Dulce Base. I'm quite sure there's a lot of UFO activity that had been seen there, but I think his book was a sincere book. I really do. I don't think he put anything in there that he thought was a fake story or some type of embellished story.
Right. There's so many different stories, whether it's Dulce Base, Dugway up in Utah, Skinwalker Ranch, Blind Frog Ranch. When you look at it all and you listen to what is going on, it really tells a tale that the entire phenomena seems to be a coordinated effort altogether. It's not just cryptids, it's not just ghosts, it's not just UFOs and aliens. What the heck do you think is going on, Lon?
I don't know, but I think there is a connection all around. The Dugway base up in Utah is a pretty interesting place. I've heard a lot of weird stories coming out of that place for years, even before it was designated as the next Area 51, or calling it Area 52, or whatever they want to refer it to. But there seems to be a lot going on there now. It does it have to do with alien technology, as Area 51 has been known or supposedly known for? I believe so. Maybe. I do believe that there are craft that have been retrieved. Have there been alien bodies retrieved? Possibly. I've heard a lot of things throughout my life about Roswell and a few things. My dad, I had told you before, my dad was in the 509th Bomber Wing when he was in the Air Force during Korea, and a lot of those folks that were still associated with the 509th were comrades of his in the Air Force. And as his time went by, and some of the stories he was told, and he was very tight-lipped about it. He wouldn't talk about it at all. He refused to talk about anything. He was with Strategic Air Command as well, and he just rarely talked about it because he was stationed for the most part in Morocco and the Azores during the Korean War. But anyway, I used to go with him on reunions, and the reunions for the 509th were always held at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And some of those old timers would show up there, and you would hear a few things. It was hard to tell if it was real, but from what I had gathered from those guys who were there at Roswell in 47, I believe something definitely happened. I don't believe the complete story has ever been told. I do believe that possibly if there were bodies, they were not taken to a location like Wright-Patterson. I do believe it's in one or two places in Florida at the present day. So I don't know. I don't think all the story has been told, but I think a lot of what has been told is true.
That's very interesting. I mean, you look back at stories like Phil Schneider and the underground alien bases. What stock do you put in that?
I don't put a lot into it. I think Schneider had some issues personal wise. It's hard to really believe or confirm much of what was said about that, how he died and those type of things, or how much he actually saw. He described the firefight. I don't know how much of that is true. I've reported on that and for years and looked into it and have talked to others, and I just don't really know how much of it was fact. I do believe there is an alien presence at Dulce, but what degree I really don't know. But Dulce isn't the only place. I believe there's a very huge underground network from southern Colorado into New Mexico and possibly up into Arizona and Utah. But I think there are connections there. I think a lot of stuff is moved underground, as well as here in the East Coast. I believe like areas like Raven Rock and down along the Catocans into Camp David and down into Berkeley Springs and over into the Pentagon. I believe those are all connected underground as well. I believe there is an extensive underground network in the East and in the Southwest.
Do you think that there are aliens living underground in a lot of these tunnels?
Possibly. I I don't really have any confirmation other than what I have been told and what people have told me, but I haven't heard anything to either confirm it or discount it.
All right, let's get to another audience question here. Double Bass is asking, is the voice from telepathy your voice or the person you're talking to's voice?
It's hard to tell. It's a voice, and it's a voice that I can understand. I mean, I don't know. The dialect seems pretty plain. In my instance, I just understood the words, and they were plain, and I could tell what they were trying to tell me.
Okay, so have you, maybe not just you, but other people who have experienced some sort of telepathic communication, have they reported it ever being like a vibration in the body or like words being projected into their mind?
Yeah, I've heard that occasionally. David's even told me that he has he has felt a type of vibration on some occasions. Different beings communicating different ways, and that's about the extent of what he has told me. But they do communicate. They do communicate verbally as well with him. So that has happened on other occasions with other experiencers. That didn't happen with me.
All right, let's move to another question here. Carrie Ann is asking if you can describe the nose and mouth of the flying humanoids.
We do have some draw up, some sketches made from most of the from some of the witnesses and from some of the people on my team who have communicated with these beings. The noses are fairly small. They're kind of turned up noses for the most part. The mouths are very small. But there are different descriptions too. I mean, we've gotten all kinds of descriptions. The next time I talk to you, and when we get into this this communication and with these what we call the unseen ones and these winged beings, I could probably at that time disclose a little more with some visual sketches that we've had made up. At this point right now, I can't do that.
Right. Okay. Let's move on to a different question. Sovereign would like to know, Lon, how do you distinguish between reptilian or alien-made tunnels and human-built ones?
I don't know. I really don't know. Normally, and I have never been in one of those tunnels other than what they've been described to me with the caverns. The caverns seem to be very rudimental. Looks like you take a pickaxe and just bust it out of there. Human tunnels or man-made tunnels are usually more smoother sides and such. And they're normally done in areas where it's a type of stratus where it doesn't crumble like salt mines or very, very heavy granite and such.
Okay. So basically it's a lot rougher around the edges to try and get through these cavernous alien-type tunnels.
That's what's been described to me, yeah.
All right, 5900 Buck is asking, have you heard any goings-on west of the Green River, Utah, San Rafael swell?
Nothing in particular that I can recall.
All right. Nicola wants to know, do you believe that the Hudson Valley has an underground network? We have a lot of sightings in this area.
For years there have been a lot of sightings up and down the Hudson River. I don't know if it's underground. It's the same with a lot of these river valleys. The Susquehanna Valley has had a lot of sightings. Butch can attest to that. Here in Pennsylvania, we get a lot of sightings up and down the Susquehanna from New York down into the Chesapeake. And I think that's pretty regular for a lot of these huge river valleys, the Ohio River in particular, where Point Pleasant's located at, from Pittsburgh south until it goes into the Mississippi, along southern Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. It's it seems to be a lot of activity there.
Felipe would like to know, what do you know about Vostok Lake and how it is related to the underground alien races?
I really don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't know of anything there.
Double Bass wants to know, what's your latest Dogman sighting?
Well, like I said earlier in the chat, it's we have been getting some reports in the area between Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and King of Prussia along the highway there. We've had some sightings in Pottstown. We've had some sightings along the medium of that highway between those two locations. This is something we got about 8-9 months ago, and we're still looking into it. These sightings are very sporadic sightings. We do have areas of the state that do seem to have more activity. Center County is one. There's a lot of game land area there. There's the Tuscarora State Forest where there's a lot of activity north of the state forest. And some of the other counties in the state, Cambria County, Blair County, have, and also further north in the Clearfield, we've had some sightings over the years.
So those Dogman sightings, for a lot of people, we confuse Dogman with the bipedal canine that Butch Witkowski seems to be tracking down. What's the difference between the two?
Well, the way Butch and I have kind of defined it, we have the upright canines, the bipedal canines, is what he calls it, the lichens, the ones who are on the 2 feet that move on 2 feet, though they can become quadrupeds. Think about the Underworld movie series and the lichens and that. That's pretty what people describe. These things are huge, anywhere from 8 to 10 foot in height, very muscular. Stand their ground. We haven't had reports of any attacks, but that's normally what people encounter. What people would call a werewolf-like being. The Dogman, for what we define as the Dogman, are quadruped beings. We had a very interesting sighting near Tuscarora State Forest several years ago, where a quadruped, what we considered a Dogman, was seen by a hunter. It was a huge being. It had a wolf-like head. The body was very similar of a hyena with the slope back, very muscular legs and arms, and legs, forward legs, but very huge, very intimidating. And he was in the tree stand, and he was up there sitting in the tree stand watching this thing as it crouched in front of him in the field in front of him at the edge of the woods. He sat there for an hour, and this thing sat there and watched him for about 15 minutes and got up and sauntered off. He stayed up there a couple more hours till it turned dark. And then he ran back to his car. He wasn't going to take a shot at it. He had a 30-06 with him. He didn't know what was going to happen because this thing was very big and intimidating, and he didn't want to piss it off.
Did it see him?
Oh yeah, it was looking right at him.
Oh my gosh! How do you keep your pants clean in a situation?
I don't know. I've never had an encounter. I'd be honest with you, I don't necessarily want to have one of those encounters. I've heard enough about actual experiencers' accounts that, this isn't something that I want to have an encounter with. They're very intimidating, and they're very frightful.
The Dogman seems to be spreading its territory. I mean, when we first started learning about this, thanks to, Linda Godfrey back in 1989, we thought it was a Michigan, Wisconsin type of creature. Now we're hearing reports all over North America.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think...
Well, there have been historical reports. I mean, Pennsylvania in particular, we got reports from back in the 1800s. we used to have a lot of the people that these German descendants, the Pennsylvania Dutch who moved into Pennsylvania from the old world, were farmers. They would move into Pennsylvania, into Maryland, and they had encounters with what they called the Dueo. How that name ever came about, I don't know, but their descriptions were very similar to the lichens or lycanthropy type beings that they had experienced in the folklore of the old world. But there have been sightings in specific areas, especially in Maryland, in Frederick County, Maryland, back in the 1960s. That we had about 7 or 8 sightings outside of the city of Frederick in Frederick County, and they were pretty harrowing experiences.
I just don't want to. I will take 100 Bigfoot over one Dogman. I really will.
I don't like it. I mean, I'm fearful of them. I really am.
Why are they so intimidating comparatively to a Sasquatch?
Their size and the just overall contour, their muscular contour, and the way they project themselves, and they don't seem to be fearful of humans. They stand their ground. They when people talk about the heads of these things, they're more like they kind of remind you of the jackal heads from the Anubis heads or such from the Egyptian god. It's not always the wolf-like head. It's a lot of more defined features. Are these actual indigenous beings? I don't believe they are. I believe they're also ultra-terrestrial beings. We've had several witnesses who have seen these things literally manifest like they came out of an invisible doorway. I think they're in the same vein as Bigfoot for the most part, the winged humanoids and other cryptids.
I just the fear. And when we talk about telepathic messages, I mean, we hear a lot of people saying, look, I've come close to this creature. I have, heard it speak to me, that says I better get out of here, or I, don't pull your gun on me. Bad things will happen. I mean, I don't get that.
Yeah, we get that too. It's almost like, people talk about infrasound that's projected by some animals like tigers and big cats as a defense mechanism. Some people say that Bigfoot does the same thing. I think these beings are the same. I think they project a type of infrasound that affects humans, can kind of affect the way they move and how they react to them. And if they're armed, they'll just drop their arms and back away and not be aggressive towards them.
We got just over a minute and a half left with you tonight, my friend. And it's been a long, fun show with you, and I really appreciate every time you are on the air with us. And I know we'll do it at least 2 to 3 more times this year, because that seems to be what we do. And I'm okay with that. Very much okay. Do me a favor. Tell our audience where we can find your books, your information, and everything.
You can go to phantomsandmonsters.com. I try to post daily. My books can be found on amazon.com. My publisher is Beyond the Fray Publishing. I do have a new book coming out in February. It's titled The Meme Humanoids, Modern Myths or Real Monsters. It has to do with the crawler humanoids and the possible thought form manifestations of memes and other theories about these beings, and some true experiences that people have had with them. I express my theory about it and some of the traditional theories about them as well. I do have a radio show on Friday nights titled Arcane Radio. It can be found on Beyond Explanation YouTube channel. And of course, I if you ever have a sighting or you have an encounter, feel free to contact me at Lon Strickler at phantomsandmonsters.com.
Lon, it is always a pleasure to have you on here. You are such a good friend of what we do on a nightly basis. Thank you so much for being a mentor and a legend in this field. And I always look forward to when you're on the air because I never know what stories you're going to tell, and they're always amazing. Lon Strickler, everybody. When we come back for hour number 3, we're going to go deep into the swamp. Swamp Dweller joins us. Then the extendo version of Fedora John's unbiased UFO report. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio is next. Great show, buddy.
Thanks again.
Great show. Always a pleasure to have you here. Always a
keep
pleasure.
in contact with me and let me know what's up, okay?
I will. I'll let you know.
Okay, you take care.
Take care, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. Lon Strickler, everyone. Love him. Love him. And who came in here? Classically BC. You're welcome for the show. Excuse me. Aunt Edna. So these dogmen just appear? Sometimes. Don't mind me. Oh, there we go. That's better. That's better. Awesome Arlene Adkins Zell. What is happening? That is a good rumor. The rumor is that Fedora John is not talking. His fedora is talking, and it controls him. There is a very good possibility that that is true. Gosh, I feel like garbage right now. Oh. I knew I would have this feeling. I knew it. But that's okay. I have to trudge through. I started working out again tonight. So I haven't worked out in years. And I decided that today I just needed to start. My body was craving me to start. So I started. And because I haven't done it in a long time, I feel like crap right now. Like crap. You know when you feel like you're going to puke? It's like right there. Officially forced to monsters! What's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for joining us. That's good hair in your photo there, man. Very good hair. I did shave this morning. Ozzy Ange, you'd have been proud of my workout. I felt great. Like I wasn't gasping for air or anything like that. I felt great that way. But it's just it feels like the turning of the insides that just makes me want to feel. I probably did 10 steps. I bought an elliptical too. I bought an elliptical. So, that's all right. Main thing is my arms feel great. My arms are sore. My knees are terrible. That's why I bought the elliptical. Spooky Morales, you're like 112 pounds. Seriously. I'd be surprised if you weighed more than 112 pounds. The trumpet weighs half your weight. Ufologists, you got to make the trip. I've been there. You got to make the trip. Hey, I want to remind all of you that I will be speaking, and I think Lynn Wallington will be speaking too, at UFOCon 2022, February 25th through 27th in San Francisco, California. If you go to UFOCon2022.com, you can see that there will be 15 speakers over 2.5 days. George Norrie's going to be there, Alan Steinfeld, Paul Hynek, Misha Johnson, Jesus Payan Jr., who's been a guest on this show, showed us alien pictures, remember that? Myself, I believe Lynn Wallington, and others will be there. This is a great event. It's a lot of fun, and I highly suggest you go to UFOCon2022.com. I'll put it in the chat room. And come visit us. Come hang out. I highly suggest you do. And big thank you to everybody who has so far signed up for our Vegas party, April 22nd to 24th, down in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yep. COVID be damned. We are partying. We are partying. Hi, Admiral Nelson. Yep, we're getting together. So far we have 10 confirmed. Go to info@spacedoutradio.com if you are 100% planning to be in Vegas. 100% planning. So make sure you check that on out. Want to see a bunch of you there. First 50 people to sign up, you're going to get a swag bag from me. We are trying to get David Paulides on, yes. My legs feel great. I will say that. My legs feel great. No, I'm not watching the mainstream news, Ron. I get too pissed off at the stupidity of people. All right, we're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. So let's make this happen. Let's get ready to go to the swamp.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Let's fire up the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Tasenda. Tasenda is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp, shall we? With our resident swamp dweller.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our...
Oh, why did that cut out? That's okay. Let's just get to it.
I'm not sure how to begin this, or where. This is such a frequent occurrence that I'm rather used to it. I hope you don't find me crazy, but I just need somewhere to share this. I live in the woods of Michigan and my nearest neighbor is at least a mile away. If you have ever lived in this wondrous land during the fall, you'll understand the beauty of it all. I was a young adolescent when this happened, and wished to go for a walk with my best friend, who we'll call Anna, along one of the many barely traveled, beautiful back roads. It was Thanksgiving, and about 9 or 10 at night. The full moon was lit beautifully as we walked. This night, I decided to tell Anna about my aunt's encounter with the alleged Michigan Dogman. Anna was afraid of the Dogman, and the moment I brought the story up, she instantly wanted to go home, to which I apologized profusely to her soon after. I thankfully convinced her to stay with me, and we walked another half mile or so before arriving at an old abandoned building we never really tried to go into before. We walked around the building, heading down a trail that leads through a cornfield and through some woods to home. Realizing we were about to head into a forest and afraid of Dogman, Anna refused to go at first. This was until I informed her if we turned around it would take much longer to get home. I'd convinced her to press onward, but, looking back, I wish I'd just have turned around myself. It wasn't long after we entered the woods that we heard the sound of wings flapping overhead. These weren't normal flapping sounds, however. These were the sounds like you've never heard before. They sounded like they were coming from something enormous. Upon hearing this, Anna and I froze, looking at one another before I finally got the courage to whisper to her, "Did you hear that?" Hear what?" she asked as she stared at the sky to indicate that she indeed had heard the sound. I held Anna's hand tightly, tugging it to indicate that we need to go. We need to pick up the pace. The woods seemed to almost envelop us as we soon started to walk faster. We decided we needed to keep our heads down as we walked, thinking foolishly that if we didn't see it, it wasn't real. It was after some walking and the occasional sprint that we neared the safety of home. This is when we heard the sound of a huge tree branch snapping and falling to the ground after another gust of wind came from the wings flapping somewhere in the sky above us. Squeezing tighter now, I screamed for Anna to run, and we both bolted towards the woods exit. We were both terrified as we ran. We never stopped in spite of Anna's cries of fear, and I maintained a great focus upon the porch light just outside the woods. As we ran faster, we suddenly heard footsteps from whatever was stalking us. The steps grew faster until we exited the forest and rushed home. It was when we exited the woods that whatever stalked us stopped abruptly. Once inside the house, I slammed the door, locking it and shutting off the porch light. My parents were still out for the evening, so Anna and I took every second we could to try to process what we had just experienced and calm ourselves down. Anna began screaming, asking what that was and shaking as she did so. I put a finger to my lips and told her to crouch. She did as I instructed, and we both sat there for what seemed like an eternity, but was probably just 10 or 20 minutes. It was after this wait that I got the courage to slowly look out the back door window. It was then I saw 2 glowing red eyes just staring. Anna was about to get up, but I told her to stay down, not wanting her to see what I was seeing. The creature with the glowing red eyes was tall, dark, but the eyes were what stood out the most. Staring into its eyes, well, it was unusually comforting. I didn't feel fear. I felt like everything in life was going to be okay. It was as though I could trust the monster in front of me. I was about to unlock the door when Anna slapped my hand away and asked me what the hell I was thinking. I told her I wasn't doing anything when we heard the sound of a car door slamming shut. My parents were home, and at that point, Anna made herself scarce. I looked out the window one final time only to see nothing there anymore. I wish the story ended here, but ever since that night I don't go out at night, nor do I go to the woods. That said, the creature I believed to be Mothman seemed to get bolder with time. It became less afraid of the house or hiding, from me at least. I've heard tapping on my window and I've seen the door handle jiggle when I'm the only one home. The Mothman grew smarter every time it came around and has always avoided the other people. One night, it stared at me through the blinds I'd forgotten to shut, and I just hid under my covers till I was brave enough to look out again. I, of course, found it vanished once again. I moved out of my parents' house at 19 and went to Florida, and I've never seen the creature since.
That's pretty much what you need to do is, if you got Mothman knocking at your door, you got to get the hell out. It's just that simple. you got Mothman, you got to get the hell out. Thank you to Mr. Swamp Dweller for taking the time to join us. And it is time to go from Mothman to UFOs and the Fedora John's Unbiased UFO Report. Now, John, the lovely and talented John Hudson, I'm not liking the shave that you had. I mean, you're losing your Barry Gibb look.
Oh, I know, but my wife does not like me in beards, so I really don't have a choice in the matter.
Wow. You're killing me here.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I actually had trouble removing it, to be very honest with you, and I was like, no, but yeah, no choice in the matter.
How are we supposed to sing "How Good Is Your Love" now to you?
Oh well, I'm sure that we can struggle through. We'll prevail.
I'm sure we can. My friend, it is time for the Unbiased UFO Report once again, and it's always a good time to have you here. What do you got for us to kick things off tonight?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to the second item I have is something I want to go into for a little while. So I was trying to break it out into
stages.
More tight areas, Yeah, and I was in the middle of doing so. I just didn't get a chance. Let me just send you at least what I have so far. But the first thing we want to. Well, I mean, first off, hey, thank you everyone for sticking around. Really do appreciate it. And I got to admit, it's a little apprehensive coming in after a Swamp Dweller. That's quite a man. I love listening to that guy's voice. But yeah, so the first really interesting topic comes into this article that several people were sending around, including yourself, talking about the fact that basically throwing some shade. I wouldn't even say it that way. I would argue that what they're doing is finally proper journalism. That basically what they're saying is they're pushing back. And they're saying, hey, what about this? And what does this mean? And should we be worried about this? And should this be making us suspicious? And it's a very, it's a more classically, conservative viewpoint of everything. And essentially, it's what I would have hoped to have been seeing from the mainstream news media this entire time, and haven't seen. So. I think it needs to be called out because it's amazing, but in a way, it's almost kind of sad that it is amazing. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, for the longest time, people have heard me whine and gripe about the fact that there hasn't been any other look at the other side of ufology. It's all been about Elizondo, Mellon, the late Harry Reid, the government. What does the government know about everything? And so on and so forth. We really haven't seen a lot of counter stories of people just saying, whoa, let's sit back and chill here for a second, folks, and let's take a look at the other side of why this just may not be exactly what we're hoping for. I mean, do we want that much of a controlled disclosure? So the fact that both MUFON and, love him or hate him, Stephen Greer kind of played the counter side of the UFO report. I thought NBC did a great job on this.
Oh, I do too. And I should point out that they're the second ones I've seen do this. And I looked for the first one that I saw a couple of days ago, and I can't find it. So I know they aren't alone in doing this. This is the second group I've seen take this approach. And like I said, to me, this is what I would normally expect out of mainstream news. I mean, this is the kind of there was almost a it's not quite satire, but you know what I mean. There was a little bit of a nudging aspect to it, right? Like there was a little bit of a hey, poking at the bear sort of a thing to it, which I've always liked in American journalism that we've never seen on the UFO side of things. That I think hopefully, I mean, well, boy, man, if this becomes a trend, I'll be one happy camper.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. And what were some of those counterpoints that people were saying?
Well, I mean, it definitely got into, some pretty interesting, debates and so forth. And, it's, to me, most of the counterpoints, I wouldn't, I mean, I was trying to remember, I don't think none of them stood out to me. Like, none of them caught me off guard as anything like, ooh, I personally, I think there are a couple of things that you could call out that might be considered kind of gotchas that didn't get called out. And so it was a very polite article. It really was.
Okay. Do you see this catching any traction that's going to open up the eyes to maybe other journalists out there to realize that there is MUFON, there is the SCU, there is Stephen Greer, there is New Fork, and other areas of expertise of people with just as highly educated backgrounds who have the ability to speak on this subject?
Well, I'm kind of torn on that one. Because I'm not necessarily fond of those sources that you're talking about, but I understand your point. Yeah.
So your thought is?
I'm sorry. I got caught off by something. Can you remind me again? I just got my mind just went because I got. This is why I can never look at chat. Like, if you all stop talking, I'd really appreciate it. But you just take a deep breath. Hold yourselves. So what were you saying?
Yeah, just pause. You're talking about just pause, chat room.
Yeah, it's everyone just pause.
All right. What we need to do
because I'm not a big fan. Like, I'm not a big fan of Greer, right? I'm not a big fan, and so the point I was going to make was that while I don't necessarily want them to start leaning on those sources, what I do hope this starts is a trend where other periodicals look at this and realize, hey, we do have the leg room to push these buttons. We do have the reason to push back, and we do have the readership to actually do so. What I'm hoping the trend that we see start is this style of writing, not a fallback to those sources.
Where I found it refreshing was it wasn't the same narrative that we've been used to seeing for the last 4 years. That we have to press the government. The government it was all about technology. It was all about the 3 videos. It was all about the United States Navy, Elizondo, Mellon, as I said earlier. And what is the government going to do? Threat narrative, it's China, it's Russia, it's some other sort of area that we can't figure out, some terrorist organization that's infiltrated the military hardware. I mean, we've heard every excuse, John, regarding this subject. We really have. And I'm just really trying to gain control of everything. And this is why we've always told our readers and our listeners over the years, take a step back. See what is missing, and that is a counterpoint, because journalism is point counterpoint regarding the subject. And the fact that 4 years in, we are now seeing MSNBC, of all people and all outlets, to kind of say, hey, is there another side to this? It really, really made me feel good. It really did.
It did, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was my big takeaway from this. For me, this came off as almost a feel-good article, which I'm sure other people didn't take it as, but I think for the same reasons you did.
All right. Well, let's move on. You want to spend some time on the next article.
Yeah.
I can see you're getting very excited about it. So
this is fun.
Good friend of this show, Dan Warren, who has one of the largest UFO TikTok channels out there. He's got over 65,000.
Yeah, he's got at least 3 followers. Oh, is it? Okay, good. More than 3 now. Good.
Yeah, way more than 3. About 65,000 more than 3. Well, he did a great post the other day about this alleged United States Air Force UFO manual that was written and in doctrines between 1968 and 1970. What do you know about this?
So I don't know about you, but I'd heard rumors about this for years upon years back when I thought it was a myth. And then a couple of years ago, I found that it was real, but I didn't get a chance to see it. And then later on, like I think it was George Knapp and some other people came out with it, and they published it, and like it was on Mystery Wire and a couple other places, but no one really seemed to pay attention to it. And but what it came down to was that Dan, as honestly we all should be doing, and this is one of the comments I want to make, is that what he's doing is he's cherry picking some of what he considers some of the most impressive data points that he's run into in his research. And he's just kind of advertising it out there because there's all these new people coming into the topic that don't have this old knowledge. And so basically he made a post about this Air Force manual. And so for those that aren't aware, just real briefly, basically between 1968 and 1970, the U.S. Air Force had a physics class. And one of the textbooks that was required for that physics class had the last section of the book was on UFOs. And only about, I think it was about 25 people took the class, a segment. And so I forget how many years, like they gave, so we're talking about, probably only a couple hundred people actually went through this course. But the course is available. You can download it. I'll provide a link later in my notes and so forth. And I was actually reading it before the show, and it's actually more interesting than I remember it being. It's an interesting document. But the cool part was it nice on Dan to do this. I encourage everyone to go read it yourselves. It's an interesting thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about the document in a second. But what I want to talk about first is that when he did this, Eric Weinstein, who some of you may or may not know, but Eric is as he argues, he is the mathematician with the most followers on Twitter, which he considers to be quite a triumph. But I mean, we're talking 500,000 followers. He's a very, very well listened to individual. Eric's also a wicked smart dude. He's impressive, and he basically does some good thinking, and he does a lot of podcasting with Lex Friedman and a couple other people and so forth. And he has been one of the people that have kind of recently turned and started realizing that there's something to this UFO story. And he's started expressing a lot of angst that he's been lied to and so forth. Well, he picked up on this story because of what Dan wrote and started like sending it out to people going, is this real? Does anyone have any proof of this? Like, why haven't I heard of this? Like wanting to know what the hell was going on. Well, needless to say, a bunch of people respond with the links. Well, so now we have Eric Weinstein's 500,000 plus followers and all the people that they forwarded to watching him get very animated and serious about reading this document, all because Dan Warren decided to essentially regurgitate a previous episode he did and splash it out as a commercial, right? I mean, it's essentially what it was, right? It done in a good way. And essentially, this is how Weinstein found out about it. And so the one point I want to make before we get into the document a little bit is that because we are at a phase in this whole process where, look, some of the most significant people who will ever give anything to this field have not even joined yet. Some of the most profound people that will ever do any work in this field have not even been born yet. Okay? So what it means is that there are always new people coming into it, and so we always have to recognize that we need some fun, easy, simple way for people that are coming into it to still get a good sampling of the good older stuff, right? All that fantastic knowledge that you would have gotten if you gotten into this earlier. And that's essentially what Dan did. And what we're seeing is the repercussions of what that does. The repercussions is someone like Eric Weinstein, who has a huge base of followers, now showing tremendous interest in this document and getting all of his followers interested in this document, right?
Well, let's
before you
go any further, let's read some tweets from Eric Weinstein for our audience. And he is like, is there such a text? Has the USG or U.S. government owned up to it? Is there a PDF of it circulating? Are there others attached to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or the RIAS or the Physical Fields Institute of UNC Chapel Hill, so University of North Carolina, or Brown University's Nonlinear Dynamics Group, or the Glenn L. Martin Company? And so then he follows up by saying, sorry for the weird specificity, but I am trying to link this to things that I know to be real that I've been puzzled about for years that never made sense to me. Also, it's hard to fake an entire text competently, so this is interesting. So this is where it really gets dirty, and then you can see everybody from, not dirty in a bad way, but, you know, the gloves are coming off of Eric, is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. Because once again, this for Eric, this is just now yet another example of something that he feels that he should have been completely aware of that has been kept from him. And that's the way he views it, right? Is it, why are you keeping data from me?
We are going to continue with the talk of Eric Weinstein and Dan Warren. UFO Talk, the unbiased UFO report with the fedora-wearing John Hudson continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Ooh, what's that?
That's my radio DJ.
Pretty.
That's what plays everything. So, for instance, the ones in red have already been played tonight.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's a very pretty GUI.
Pretty cool, eh?
I like GUIs. I like designing GUIs. They're fun.
Yeah.
Most people are really bad at designing GUIs.
What are GUIs?
Oh, sorry. What you're looking at is a GUI. GUI. It stands for Graphical User Interface.
Oh.
You click buttons to talk to a computer. I type text to talk to a computer. I don't typically use a GUI. I don't typically click on things. I typically type like text to talk to a computer. So I use what's called a CLI, command line interface, and then you're using a GUI, which is a graphical user interface. But graphical user interfaces are far prettier and far more fun to make.
You lost me at Virgin.
Yeah, no, there was no Virgin into that, but yeah. Well, let me tell you, the thing that's so funny is all the Virgin jokes just totally fall flat around here because, like, it's like, to me, like this kind of like talk is so normal around here.
Oh man, I'm just teasing, buddy. I'm just teasing. Shroomanati.
Oh no, it's all good.
How are you, buddy? Jules comment: UFO Twitter took him to school in a good way. Yeah, we're gonna bring that back up here momentarily. There we go. I am so craving an apple right now.
What's your favorite kind of apple?
I don't care. I just love apples.
Really?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm hooked on Honeycrisp.
Mm-hmm. I like ambrosia. Mm-hmm.
Dave, you didn't even comment. I wore a black sports coat in honor of your Men in Black. Oh, that's true. You can't really see it.
We can't even see you, man.
See it. Yeah.
Can't even see you.
I wore my black sports coat in honor of your Men in Black conversation.
Oh, the Miss Vicky's chips. Ron, we don't talk COVID in the chat room, so that comment's got to go away. No COVID in the chat room, people. No COVID or politics. And that comment, Ron, is not cool. Steam Train Mark, how do you time the show to make sure it all lines up? I'll show you this. There's actually, I don't know if it'll let me do it here, but if you look here, this is what we call a wheel in radio. So everything is timed out. Everything is timed out, and that goes from the start at 3 hours until right at the end. Red Delicious apples are good too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna pig out on an apple as soon as this is done. I honestly.
Well, hey, good for you for working out, dude.
Hey, dude,
Good.
I'm good sore right now, but I still got that pukey feeling in my stomach, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm quite okay with that.
Yeah, I must admit, I was trying to remember. Like, I'm not really familiar with that experience myself, but
Oh, dude, never in my lifetime did I think I would let myself get so out of shape. Because I was always active in sports.
Oh! I got you. Yeah. I got you. I've been so far out that when I've got back in, it's made me nauseous. Now I remember. Now I know what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
The Michael Leger, I am not eating Miss Vicky's chips as good as they are. Trying to stay away from those. I got a weird Miss Vicky's chips story for you. The Michael Leger, remind me after the show, and I will fill in that story on my Miss Vicky's chips story. I want to say a big thank you tonight to Third Phase, Apollo, Dry Toast, Sapphire, Lori, and Nicola for the amazing super chats. Thank you so much for the love. We really do appreciate it. Reminder, this weekend, Lynn Wallington is back. We're hoping, fingers crossed, for Spaced Out Weekend, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, followed by the After Hours show with John, Gemma, and Big Willie. And here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the unbiased UFO report. John Hudson is here. We're talking about a TikTok that literally...
Wait, hold on, Dave. Dave, hold on, sorry. I have an emergency. All of you wrenches, I want everyone that's been talking about yummy food, I want them all suspended. That was evil. Like, people were going off about all these desserts.
Radio doesn't have wrenches, man.
Oh, yeah. No. Boy, you got wrenches in the chat room, right?
Well, I realize that, but the radio side can't see that.
Yeah, true.
Stop talking food, chat room. We're hungry over here. We are hungry over here.
It was awful. Awful.
I know. Now I got to go through this. Let's see here.
I know. I'm watching all of you.
Apple pie and cheese, apples and salt.
I know who all of you are.
Apple pie and vanilla ice cream, pecan pie, lemon water and mint. We'll calm down. I'll have some lemon water afterwards.
You're making this worse, dude. Dave.
I know.
Can we go on? Get back to the UFOs, man.
Just a jerk that way.
Back to the UFOs.
All right. So Dan Warren, who is a guest here recently, a good friend of this show, has the most popular TikTok channel going regarding UFOs. He's got over 65,000 subscribers. One of his posts was caught up today by Eric Weinstein, who's literally considered one of the most noble mathematicians in the United States. I think that's a fair comment to make. And Weinstein absolutely blew up in a positive way about UFOs. So, John, on Twitter, this all happened at hashtag UFO Twitter. I mean...
Well, and this has become par for the course for Eric, because Eric Weinstein's been on this journey for, I don't know, about 9 months now, where like he suddenly realized that, oh my gosh, UFOs are real, and wow, and so it's been kind of fun, like watching him go through the process. And so basically, this was another situation where, I don't know how long ago it was, but I can only imagine how he reacted when he found out about Benny and Barney Hill. It's like, you can imagine like someone going through all these, like, he already knows about Barb Lazar, unfortunately, but yeah, no, it's been fun watching him do it. But yeah, he was really as you say, upset in a good way that he had never heard of this document before. And needless to say, you had a bunch of people respond not only with links to the document, but also more background on, where the document, the one guy posted a link to where 2 physical copies of this manual exist today at a certain library that you can actually get access to. So like a bunch of people popped up with a bunch of really helpful information, which was super nice.
Well, that's really cool in regards to that. What was the biggest shock to Eric Weinstein regarding this?
I think for him, it's probably the fact that it was in this official, U.S. Air Force textbook, because essentially this is why I personally like this whole story has always been like one of my favorites, because in 1970 or whatever it was, after the Condon Report came out, they pulled it out of the textbook. But here's the thing, they didn't know they were going to pull it out of the textbook when they wrote it. So this chapter was written. It was written by several people. It was edited by someone. All of their names are at the beginning of the document. They're all published there. I don't know if anyone's tracked those people down, but some one of us should. And essentially, it's saying, and it says point blank right in the beginning of the document. It's an amazing document. It says we're not here to give you data. We're here to tell you paint you a story about the fact that contact has been coming to this planet for thousands of years. That's what it says right out in the beginning of the document, right? It's a really interesting document to read, and the thing is that there's nothing really significant in the document. It's a very kind of I would consider it to be kind of a a standard one, just middle down the road survey of one reasonable hypothesis for what the hell's going on, right? But the fact that they actually got enough consistency within the Air Force to, because I don't know how textbooks are written in the Air Force, but usually there's several layers of peer review that goes on, right? Through each iteration of a textbook, right? And so by the time a class has actually been created, you've had so many eyes and ears on those documents that someone would have pulled it if it wasn't supported. So what this means is that, and it survived through enough cycles that it may have even gone through one review while it was being taught, right? So and it wasn't pulled because of its response or because of it was pulled because of the Condon Report. So essentially what you have here is you have what essentially should have been in the Air Force textbooks this entire time. But it wasn't. It was pulled for some reason. And for some reason it was only there for 2 years. And and so this document should be taken very seriously.
Well,
this is the Air Force best foot forward from the point of view of 1968.
I don't think Dan Warren is going to have a little bit of an issue if we play some of his TikToks here.
Oh, I don't think so either. No,
I think you're cool with that. I think let's do this right now, and let's let me just unmute this. Let's take it in from part 1 to part 8. There's a little bit of a series here. So here's part 1 of this.
But the U.S. Air Force Academy used to educate its cadets about UFOs between 1968 and 1970. And this wasn't just some professor's opinion, this was in their textbook, which was confirmed by the Deputy Director of Public Information at the Air Force Academy. The cadets that enrolled in Physics 370 were required to have a textbook titled Introductory Space Science. The very last chapter in this textbook was titled Unidentified Flying Objects. And according to the Lemoore Advance, the students were taught to stop scoffing at UFOs and instead to keep an open mind on the subject. This course was an elective that attracted about 20 students per semester. That means for the 5 semesters that this was in place, about 100 cadets were exposed to this information. But I got my hands on a copy of it, so I'm going to expose the rest of the world to this information, so make sure you hit that follow button. This textbook was written in 1968, back when the Air Force was still collecting UFO reports through Project Blue Book. But since the Air Force-sponsored Condon Report came out in early 1969 and stated that nothing had come from the study of UFOs in 2 decades, they decided to remove it from the curriculum. The findings of the Condon Report also resulted in the termination of Project Blue Book in that same year. Project Blue Book concluded by stating the following: no UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force has ever given any indication of threat to our national security. There has been no evidence discovered by the Air Force that sightings categorized as unidentified represent technological developments beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge. There's been no indication that sightings categorized as unidentified are extraterrestrial vehicles. Based on those conclusions, the Air Force removed their chapter about UFOs and replaced it with a chapter called Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, which just so happens to be the term that they used in the Gillibrand-Rubio-Gallego Amendment, which establishes the next incarnation of Project Blue Book thanks to the signing of the NDAA for 2022. So you're not going to want to miss what comes next.
All right, we're going to play one more here, and we'll get right into it. Hold on.
I'm going to start off this deep dive into what the Air Force used to teach their cadets about UFOs by going over the conclusions first. They start off by concluding that from the available information, the UFO phenomena appears to have been global in nature for almost 50,000 years. And whatever these reliable people have witnessed, it could potentially be natural phenomenon, psychological in nature, or an unknown phenomena. But those possibilities are also questionable in view of some of the available data. This of course leaves us with the unpleasant possibility of alien visitors coming to Earth. And don't forget, this is the Air Force saying this, not me. And with the available but questionable data that exist, it suggests that there is at least 3 or 4 different groups of aliens, possibly at different stages of development, which is also difficult to accept. In 1968, this implied that there was life on the planets within our solar system, which I think has been ruled out at this point. Or it implies a surprisingly strong interest in Earth from members of other solar systems. And the authors of this chapter believe that the solution to the UFO problem may be obtained by a long and diligent effort of a large group of well-financed and competent scientists, similar in scope to the Manhattan Project. And the Gillibrand-Rubio-Gallego Amendment might finally be the beginning of that effort. But at the time, there was no evidence that such an effort was going to be made. But even if this effort is taken on, there is no guarantee of success, due to the isolated and sporadic nature of sightings. And the possibility does exist that there may not be anything to find, which means we would be chasing our tails. So the Air Force recommended to their future leaders that the best thing to do is to keep an open and skeptical mind, and to not take an extreme position on any side of this question. And it sounds like the same thing I've been saying to you guys is the most important part of looking into this topic is to think for yourself. Next, we get into the meat of the chapter. I'm going to start off this deep dive into what the Air Force used to teach their cadets about UFOs by going over the conclusions first.
What we're going to do is we're going to go into one more. We got time for one more, John, and then we'll quickly talk about it, then wrap it up. Here we go.
Yep, sounds good, bud.
All right, let me just mute our mics here first.
Part 3 on the Air Force Academy's chapter on UFOs. In the introduction, they start by asking, what is a UFO? Time out. Before we dig into this, I want to challenge you guys. I want to challenge you to suspend your judgment. And instead of focusing on what information they're presenting and if you believe it or not, I want you to ask yourself something. Why? Why would the Air Force be presenting this information to their future leaders? So keep that in the back of your mind as you process the rest of this information. So what is a UFO? Well, according to Air Force Regulation 8017, a UFO is any aerial phenomenon or object which is unknown or appears out of the ordinary to the observer. This, of course, is a very broad definition, and it applies equally well to someone that's seeing their first noctilucent cloud at twilight, or another individual that's seeing a helicopter for the first time. But most people consider the term UFO to mean an object which behaves in a strange or erratic manner while moving through the Earth's atmosphere. This strange phenomena has evoked strong emotions and great curiosity among a large segment of the world's population. The average person is interested because he loves a mystery. The professional military man is involved because of the possible threat to national security. And some, but not all, scientists are interested because of the basic curiosity that led them into becoming researchers in the first place. The literature associated with UFOs is vast and the stories are varied, so they could only provide a sketchy outline of the subject in this chapter. So this is what we'll be covering going forward. Part 3 on the Air Force Academy's chapter.
And we're going to leave it right there because anybody who wants to go check it on out can go to Dan Warren's 5th Pillar of Emphasis on TikTok. And once again, thank you, Dan Warren, for allowing us to use your audio on Spaced Out Radio. We greatly appreciate it. Yes. John, we got about...
And I also encourage everyone to read the document as well. It's worth reading. It's interesting. It's not long. It's like 16 pages or something.
We got about a minute left. I mean, how does this change the game? I mean, this is important news.
So to me, it doesn't change the game as much as I think it shows that we are on the brink of entering new phases of the game, where the rules change once again and new players come onto the board and existing players have rules changed and maybe some other players aren't as significant. So we shall see. Well, but I think that this is definitely a sign that we're seeing a change in strategy. And it's not even necessarily malicious. I think a lot of it's very natural based on human personalities and just the fact that we're all, at this point, humans.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much for another great unbiased UFO report. And we'll talk to you in just a couple nights' time here, buddy.
Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out.
All right. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. Here we go with Shirky Poo's news. We're going to start off what tops the 2022 list of banished words and phrases. Supply chain, number 10. Over the last few months, you've heard someone mention supply chains. They get blamed for everything from product shortages in stores to long mail delivery times. That's why it made the list. Number 9, you're on mute. The rise of this phrase seems to be directly linked to our collective migration to Zoom and other video call platforms. When you got a call from one participant to stay silent even though their mouth is moving, they are muted. Yes. Here's one that I absolutely hate. Number 8, new normal. Yes, we get it. The pandemic has changed the world. You don't have to keep repeating that it's the new normal anymore. Everybody knows it. Let's just get back to normal. How about that? Number 7, deep dive seems to irritate people dealing regularly with literature or the media more than it does your average Joe, but the judge raises some good points about the expressions of pointlessness. Do we need deep? I mean, does anyone dive into the shallow end? Circle back. Number 6, the most overused phrase in business, government, or other organizations since synergy. A judge said when arguing for this phrase's inclusion, and we have to agree, it gets used way too much. Number 5, asking for a friend. I think that one is just self-notable. Number 4, that being said, like circle back, the phrase does serve a purpose. You may occasionally have to raise a point that runs in contrary to what you said a second before, but it's a little bit overused. 3, at the end of the day, let's just get rid of it. How about that? Yeah, this one was also included in the 1999 list, but somehow resurrected itself. Number 2, no worries. According to the judges who made this list, no worries is constantly used as an incorrect substitute for you're welcome. and they want it to stop. If I'm not worried and I don't want anyone telling me not to worry, if I'm upset, I want to discuss being upset. I'm not worrying. And number one that needs to go away. Wait, what? And here it is, the grand winner, the most pointless and overused phrase so far this year. You mostly will use the phrase, wait, what? On social media. It's always there. Shock or disbelief. But the judges of this contest feel it is infuriatingly vague as a response. Their justification kind of makes sense. You don't really need to know if the person typing the phrase is really shocked or actually pleasantly surprised. Let's move on here. All right. An Ontario woman whose cat fled from her home in the summer of 2010 has been reunited with the missing feline when her pet turned up at a shelter 12 years later. Christine DeCastro of Kitchener said she received a phone call from Vaughan Animal Services on New Year's Day saying one of her pets had been found, and she was initially confused after verifying that her cat and 2 dogs were at home. DeCastro said her confusion turned to shock when she found out the animal turned out to be Lolly, a cat that had fled from her home when she lived in Richmond Hill, Ontario in 2010. Vaughan Animal Services told her Lolly had been picked up as a stray and scanned for a microchip. I was totally in shock, she said. Quickly made plans with my partner to pick her up. I'm still in shock a week and a half later. Wait, what? Anyways, moving on. Here's a good one that we'll end the news with tonight. All right, we all know about twins sharing a birthday, or do they? These twins will have a bunch of similarities in life, but a birthday won't be one of them. Aylin and Alfredo Trujillo were born just 15 minutes apart, but because of the special circumstances, the details aren't what they should be. The Salinas, California Navidad Medical Center helped welcome these beautiful babies into the world. It was technically on different days, months, and years. You guessed it. They were born on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, respectively. Aylin weighed in at 5 pounds 14 ounces. Alfredo at 6 pounds 1 ounce. Alfredo was born on December 31st, 2021 at 11:45 p.m., while his little sister Aylin waited until January 1st. It's crazy to me to think they are twins and have different birthdays, their mother Fatima said in a statement. I was surprised and happy that she arrived at midnight. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Weird, but beautiful. All right, let's get to the thought of the day today. What is proof? Gail, I presume you aren't talking about the percentage of ethanol in adult beverages. Proof is something that induces certainty or establishes validity. Vincent, proof is an illusion that non-experiencers believe will make them believe in a phenomenon they have yet to experience but have heard about from others. Danny, seeing it with your own 2 eyes. Nora, what a loaded question. Melinda, proof is completely subjective and is up to the individual. Michael, actual demonstrative physical evidence, no blurry pictures or video. Public display of entities, dead or alive. Disclosure must come from the highest office, not some pseudo-government society. Oh, we got a lot of play on this one. Final one tonight goes to Bruce. Yes, old Brucey Bruce says, the level of how good a stiff drink makes you feel. That is your thought of the day for today. Thank you to everybody participating. Thank you to Dan Warren from Fifth Pillar of Emphasis on TikTok for letting us use his stuff. For the Unbiased UFO Report and John Hudson, we thank Swamp Dweller and Lon Strickler for joining us on the show. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.